Chaim v'livracha.
Amen.
On the eve of Chanukah, my Chanukah, what is Chanukah? So we are in our discourse, and what we've explained, well, many details, that the light of the menorah is to be lit at the time when the sun sets, a time of darkness, personal darkness, collective darkness of the world, and that we are to illuminate. To what end do we illuminate? Until those that are the last ones in the shuk, in the marketplace. In other words, there's no more outdoor activity outside. Outside meaning the public domain, which is metaphorically a place of multiplicity, duality, and more. And therefore, we have to bring the light of the menorah there in order that we those who were the last ones in the market working, who were the Talmudoi, who the word Talmudoi, the same letters spell those who are rebellers, who rebel against the unity, the oneness of God, until they're finished. So literally, the law is till they're finished their work. But what is their spiritual meaning? What is their work? Is to rebel against an intimate unity and oneness with God. So the light of the menorah is to affect that it destroys that negative force. That's the first level, destroy the negative force. The second level is to transform that. Achetichla has an interesting double meaning to it. Until you tichle, destroy, finish off, destroy. Another meaning is until you create a yearning, that the negative force has a yearning for the oneness and the unity and divine connection. Wow, that's pretty powerful. Right? In other words, the light of the Hanukkah menorah, which tonight we light the first candle, has the power of transforming the darkness within me, the darkness within the world that is rebelling against the oneness of God, an intimate, close relationship with God. It rebels against that because it wants, like an intimate relationship between husband and wife. All you want is what you want. You're not going to have an intimate, close relationship with your spouse. It's even more so. Because most people look at God as, what I have from him. He's the source of life, so I need life. I pray to him, give me life, give me good life, give me health, give me, all the wonderful good things of life. Which is, I want this, I want that, which is a multiplicity, which is then really rebelling against and going against an intimate whole oneness and a unity. So the light of the menorah illuminates within us and within the world, that, first of all, to destroy that negative nature, that self-directed, seeking, what's good for me merely. And now destroying that, and on a higher level, that nature within me now becomes desiring, yearning for divine connection, divine alignment, to be brought into, Now, accordingly, remember, in the beginning of our discourse, we said there's a connection between Chanukah, which is 8 days, and Sukkot, the holiday that we sit in a sukkah into a booth, which was a couple of months ago. To be precise, 2 months ago. 2 months ago today was the end of the holiday. Simchas Torah. Shmini Torah, Simchas Torah. So, what's the connection between Chanukah, 8 days, and Sukkot, which is 8 days? Right? It's not just happenstance. So a sukkah, that outdoor booth that we, dwell in for the 8 days of Sukkot, surrounds a person, and it's not tailor fit for the individual, right? It fits in many individuals, which indicates that the sukkah, it reveals a level of divinity, of godliness, which we call makif, encompassing, because you're encompassed by the walls of the sukkah, and most importantly, the schach, the greenery, or the ceiling, not the roof of the sukkah. Right. So it's encompassing the individual, which metaphorically means it's not tailor-made to the limitations of creation. So on the eighth day of Sukkot, which is Shmini Atzeres, Simchas Torah, right? This non-tailor-made light of God, revelation of divinity, that's beyond, transcendent, actually then becomes a part of the limited world. So just like on the eighth day of Sukkot, revelation is beyond the limits of creation, and yet able to impact creation. That's what's important over here, right? To be beyond, like the absent-minded professor who is, so brilliant, he's beyond. Sometimes being beyond means you're beyond having an impact, because, I don't understand that professor. He's beyond me. Means he didn't make an impact on me. So here we're talking about something that's beyond, divinity that's beyond, but it makes an impact, right? It's impacting the limited aspect of creation. So too is the concept of Chanukah. As we explained, Chanukah is, as was the original battle of Mattisyahu and his sons and the Jewish people, was complete self-sacrifice, complete commitment. They were few, they were weak, but they didn't look at that. They just looked that they had a duty. They had to fight off the evil of the Greeks who were trying to destroy Jewish life, to destroy Torah and mitzvahs, not destroy the Jew, but destroy Judaism. So they had complete self-sacrifice that permeated, which self-sacrifice is coming from the yechida, from the core essence of the soul, which is beyond. Beyond meaning it's beyond the human condition. Human condition is that I only do that which is good for me. I only do that which is beneficial for me. That's the human condition of the mind and the heart. That's the way the mind and the heart works. But then there's an element of us in our soul that's beyond self-sacrifice. To sacrifice self. That doesn't make sense. Why would I do that? Oh, because there's an element in me that is not limited to the human condition or to the condition of creation. Everything in creation wants to be. Self-sacrifice is not looking to be, not looking to be self, but sacrificing that for something greater than self. In this instance, it was the Jewish life and Jewish teachings and Torah and mitzvahs should survive. And they did it with a way, in a manner that was not calculated. Meaning there was no other alternative. This is what we must do. That came from the core essence of the soul. But yet it impacted every aspect of their inner world. Every aspect of their inner world, and most importantly, their actions. It impacted. And therefore, it impacted their actions. Their actions were a reflection their actions were a reflection. Like often your actions are a reflection of a well thought out commitment to something that you understand and you feel for it, and then you act upon it because you feel for it. That's the human condition. Self-sacrifice is that it's not starting with rational approach. It's starting with this way and no other way. Why? Because there's no alternative. How's rational approach would be, okay, the Assyrian Greeks, they're mighty. They've got lots of troops and they're professional warriors. Let's make a calculation over here if we can, engage in such a battle. And let's see how that battle, that was not the approach. The approach was, we have no alternative. There's something greater at stake over here than my life. There's something greater at stake over here than than life. And that is connection to God. Connection, the continuation of Jewish life, of Torah and mitzvahs. That's greater than oneself. And therefore they gave themselves over in such a manner. And then they figured out, okay, well, then they internalized it. Well, that's not the way we do things usually. That's the way it was done. So because they are both capable of having a type of impact, right? Both Sukkot and Chanukah, so they're both expressed as 8-day holidays. 7 days of the natural order, right? 7 days a week. That's the natural cycle of the week. Seven emotions that we have, or the reason why I have 7 days of the week, as I mentioned many times in the past, right? What does it make sense that there's 7 days of the week? It's such an odd number. It's only because God created the world in 7 days. 6 days he worked, and seventh day he rested, right? Which correspond to 7 divine emotions, which we have 7 emotions in our soul because we're created and we have a piece of God in us. Um, so 7 is a natural order of things. +1, meaning beyond the natural order. Beyond the natural order. And the idea is to take from beyond the natural order of creation and bring it in and permeate the order, the natural order of creation. So based on this two-step impact of Chanukah, as we also explained by the Tarmidoi, right, those the wood collectors at the end of the market day, right, they would collect all the leftover twigs, sell it, for firewood, or when the last thing when people went home seeing that they needed some firewood because it's going to be a cold night. And as we explained that on the mystical level, what it means is until you first destroy those that are rebelling against a oneness of God, who see the world as multiplicity, right? They see duality in the world, which that's the nature of the world, right? Up, down, right, left, light, dark, good, bad, rather than a oneness of God. So we need to destroy that notion, as we said, right? Remember, the light of the menorah illuminates the dark. That's the dark. And it's two-step. Destroy it, and then not just merely destroy it, but allow that negativity to actually be inspired and aspire for the divine. Aspire for the divine. That's the two steps of Chanukah. Right. And that's the two steps of Sukkot. Is actually, we will see. In other words, the first step of, right, 2 steps in Hanukkah, and it's also in Sukkot's 2 steps. The first step is we bring 70 bulls throughout the holiday of Sukkot, representing the 70 nations of the world. We start with 13, then go to 12. It becomes less and less. Why does it become less and less? Because the nature of the human condition is that nations come and nations go. Right? The Greeks are no longer, the Romans are no longer, the Greeks and the Romans of old, the Byzantines are no longer of old, right? The Egyptians of old are no longer. In other words, Sukkot reflects the weakening of the nations of the world, right? As they become weaker, lesser and lesser until no more. That's the first level. The second level is transformation. That the offerings that are brought on the altar on the holiday of Sukkot and times of the Holy Temple, that you're bringing the offerings that actually brings to transform the nations of the world, not to weaken them, but to transform them. So much so that if the nations of the world would recognize how our offerings on the altar of God in times of the Holy Temple, and even now the holiday that we celebrate, that is actually bringing them protection, bringing them transformation, the nations of the world would just run to protect, right? Rather than, as they did, the Romans did, destroy the Holy Temple. They would come and protect the Holy Temple, right? Because we're helping to transform the nations of the world, not to destroy the nations of the world. So the first step would be that the nature of the human condition is destruction. I actually see in the physical world, everything becomes, right, with time, becomes less, right? Everything erodes, everything, you know, erodes, everything becomes decayed. That's the nature of the world. That's the nature of the nations. As you said, nations come and go. But Sukkot, that's the first level. Sukkot brings to another second level. It's just like Chanukah brings to the yearning, first destruction of the negativity of the darkness, and then the yearning that the darkness itself desires to be aligned with the divine. So the first level in Sukkot is the nations becoming less, the lessening of the nations, the weakening, ultimate destruction in nations of the world. But the offerings on a second level, a deeper level, is protection of the nations. And that's an offering on the altar of God, is bringing them to transform them, that they become actually not just protection, but they become a source for holiness, to such great source of holiness that they recognize that they need to assist the Jewish people in their mandate of bringing holiness to the world. Powerful. Okay. This is like very powerful stuff. Okay, thanks you folks.